Hi, I'm Suzanne Gould, an intentional living consultant, and I wanted to talk to you today about an experience that I kind of went through with my husband while we were recovering from burnout. During my Free for All podcast interview with Rob Fludder, we talked about burnout recovery, and Rob asked me how my husband James and I were with each other during that extremely difficult time. And I think my answer surprised him and may surprise you. And that was that James and I were actually incredibly patient with each other. Not likely what you'd expect from two people who were at their wits' end. I was struggling to function outside of regular routine, but it's actually true. We both understood that for the most part, we were both in the same place, and I think that's what made the difference for how we dealt with each other during really difficult times. Uh, Knowing that the other was dealing with the same mounting pile of situations that just didn't want to quit, and knowing that we were both in the trenches, knowing we were both stressed, both depressed, both waiting for the other shoe to drop at any time. And believe me, they kept dropping. We didn't need to put the effort into explaining how we felt. And that is a really big deal. And I think that was really key in our experience. Trying to make someone understand where you're at takes a lot of energy and focus, and explaining these kinds of situations can be really draining. Not to say that's not important, if you don't have somebody going through exactly what you're going through, then you need to explain to somebody so you have some supports. But in our situation, we didn't need to explain it because we were both in it equally. So, how did we deal with each other? With extreme patience. I knew he was feeling the same or very similar as me, and he knew how I was feeling. So there was nothing to argue about. We were both exhausted. We understood that. We could both see the light at the end of the tunnel. We just didn't know how long the tunnel was. We knew that the stressors that we were under would come to an end, and eventually that light would get bigger. We just had to wait it out. And maybe that helped us along too, because that speck of light in the distance was hope for us. We knew some of the major stressors would come to an end. We just didn't know when. It was the waiting that added so much pressure to our stress, but we knew if we could just hang on, that light would eventually grow. That speck of hope likely played an important role in our dealing with the situations that slammed us. We knew one day we'd walk away from most of it. So there was no point in taking our frustrations, our anger, our stress out on each other, as it would just serve no purpose for our relationship. With the burnout in full force, there was no point in becoming yet another layer of stress for each other. And I can't tell you how thankful we are that we were able to hold it together for each other. And our relationship is so much stronger now because of it. So I do hope that if you're in a situation where you're under a tremendous amount of stress and dealing with burnout, that you do have someone supportive with you, that you're able to understand the situation. And it just makes such a big difference to not also having to be adding to the stress of everything, your relationships with the people that you're living with. It makes it obviously so much more difficult. But I am really grateful that James and I were able to get along and be understanding of each other during that time, and that it really made a huge difference for us to be patient with each other. We didn't have to deal with arguing and whatnot. So I do hope that for others, that was our story. Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of give you an update on my newest blog post, and hopefully you're following along with my channel here. Please hit subscribe. And I talk about intentional living, simplifying life, minimalism, and so forth. So hopefully you're able to follow along. And until next time, thanks a lot.